The nursery was silent, save for the rhythmic hum of the ventilation. Dr. Ravindranath stood by the glass, his hands clasped behind him. Inside the bassinet, a newborn reached upward, fingers splaying wide, clutching at the empty air. It was a reflex, yet it looked like intent. The infant pulled, curled, and stretched again, driven by a raw, unscripted urge to touch the world. Ravindranath watched the tiny hand retract, then reach out once more, tireless and unfazed by the lack of result. He turned away from the window as the sun shifted across the linoleum floor. He did not look for grand gestures or sudden epiphanies. He looked at the floorboards, then out toward the heavy, ancient oaks in the hospital garden. People often praised the height of the canopy, the leaves that caught the light, and the shade they provided in the heat. They rarely spoke of the earth. He walked toward the exit, his stride measured, eyes fixed on the path ahead. It was not the height that mattered, he thought. It was the network of roots beneath the surface, hidden in the dark, silent soil, anchoring the structure against the wind. He stopped at the door, one hand resting on the frame, and looked back at the nursery. Ravindranath began to speak, his voice steady against the quiet hum of the hallway. He recalled a scene from years ago, far from the sterile white walls. Two men were crouched under a blistering sun, their hammers striking stone in a relentless rhythm. The first man wiped sweat from his brow, his jaw tight, his face twisted in deep resentment. Every swing of his tool was a burden, a heavy repetition of dust and exhaustion. He cursed the rocks, the heat, and the weight of his own hands. The second man worked just feet away. He hummed a steady, quiet tune, his eyes fixed on a blueprint spread across a flat slab. He did not see the dust. He did not feel the heat as a personal grievance. He saw the curvature of an archway. He saw the structure that would eventually rise from the rubble. The first man labored to reach the end of the day. The second man labored to build a temple. Ravindranath paused, letting the contrast settle in the air. The physical reality of the stone was identical for both, yet their experiences were worlds apart. It was not the task that defined their suffering, but the vision they held in their minds while they worked. Ravindranath stepped out into the hospital garden, the air cooling as the afternoon light slanted low. He walked to the center of the lawn, stopping before a massive ancient oak tree. Its branches formed a sprawling canopy, thick with leaves that swayed in the breeze. He placed a hand against the rough, gray bark. Observers often commented on the height of the tree, the strength of its trunk, and the shade it cast over the grass. They praised the result, without acknowledging the process. He knelt, scraping away a handful of mulch to reveal the dark, compacted earth beneath. The tree did not reach the sky because of a single, massive surge of growth. It stood because of a vast, invisible network of roots, stretching deep into the silent, lightless soil. These roots were the embodiment of discipline. He stood up, brushing dirt from his palms. To build something that lasts, one cannot rely on sudden bursts of energy. He looked at the tree, then back toward the hospital window. It is the habit of learning 1% more each day, he said. It is the steady, quiet work that happens when no one is watching. It is the commitment to the root, so that eventually, the branches have the strength to hold their own weight against the storm. Ravindranath turned his gaze toward a small child in the recovery ward, just beginning to take tentative steps across the linoleum. The child reached forward, legs wobbling, until gravity won. The impact was sharp, the resulting cry sudden and raw. But before the echo of that sound faded, the child's hands were back on the floor, knees pushed into the tile, trembling with exertion, eyes locked onto the next target just inches away. There was no shame in that fall. There was no hesitation, no calculation of risk, only the immediate, instinctive drive to try again. Ravindranath watched the child rise. He then looked directly into the lens, his expression sharpening. He contrasted that instinct with the common adult response to rejection. Most people, he noted, stop at the first sign of friction. They bury their dreams in the dirt of their own hesitation, terrified by the sting of a single failure. They call it caution. It is merely fear. He held the gaze, forcing a moment of silence. Ask yourself why the child can fall 10 times in a minute, yet you remain paralyzed by the memory of one error. The difference is not capacity. It is the refusal to let the fall become the final chapter. Ravindranath reached into his pocket and produced a small, worn leather notebook. He opened it to a page filled with handwritten lines, each one a simple, completed objective. He held it up, letting the camera focus on the ink. People wait for lightning, he stated, tracing a line through a task with his pen. They wait for a sudden stroke of luck, a massive breakthrough, or a stroke of genius to change their reality. They see the completed archway, but they ignore the thousands of stones laid before it. He turned the page, revealing list after list of small, achievable goals. Every checkmark was a victory. Every crossed-out line was a moment where he chose to move forward instead of standing still. Success is not a singular, dramatic event. It is the aggressive, relentless accumulation of these tiny, disciplined victories. It is the result of doing the boring, necessary work when the excitement has long since faded. He closed the book with a sharp snap. If you are waiting for a grand sign to begin, you have already lost. Greatness is not found in the destination, but in the mundane, daily habit of finishing the task in front of you. He tapped the cover of the notebook against his palm, a rhythmic, steady sound in the quiet air. Ravindranath tucked the notebook back into his pocket and turned away from the lens. He walked toward the hospital exit, his steady, measured pace echoing against the polished floors. The automatic door slid open with a soft hiss, admitting a rush of cool evening air. He stepped across the threshold, the golden light of the setting sun framing his silhouette against the darkening world outside. He stopped. He did not look back immediately. He stood for a heartbeat, watching the shadows stretch across the pavement, then turned his head to look over his shoulder. The finality in his gaze was absolute. He spoke with a quiet, grounding intensity. The future is not a distant destination waiting for your arrival. It is a structure currently under construction. Every choice you make in this very second, every task you finish, and every moment you refuse to quit acts as a brick in that foundation. You are building your reality right now, whether you acknowledge it or not. The weight of your potential rests entirely on what you decide to do the moment this silence ends. He turned back toward the horizon and walked into the deepening twilight. The doors closed behind him, leaving only the sound of his fading footsteps on the pavement and the persistent, heavy stillness of the empty hallway.